We're back to bring you another member briefing today focused on our city's public policy landscape and what you can look forward to in the coming months ahead and the rest of 2021. Before we get started with our program, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Sarah Rockwell, partner with the law firm of Kaplan Kirsch Rockwell and chair of the partnership's Denver Civic Ventures Board of Directors, to provide some welcome remarks. Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Britt. Now that I'm back in the office, I realize I need to work on my Zoom background because I've been working from home for quite some time, and now I have all these papers behind me, which looks sort of not very professional, but anyway, we're going with it. So my job, first of all, is to let you know a little bit about the partnership. We are a downtown Denver, we're a place-based economic development organization, and we're comprised of over 650 member companies. And our work follows the Downtown Area Plan, which is a 20-year strategic plan for the future of our city. And we focus on areas including business and retail recruitment strategy, creating housing solutions, improving the public realm, mobility expansion, supporting entrepreneurship and innovation, and much more. And we always love to have people get involved. So if you want to learn how you can be more involved, please visit our member and resource pages at downtowndenver.com. And now I'd like to take a moment to thank John Fryer and Land Title Guarantee Company for their membership in the Downtown Denver Partnership and their sponsorship of today's member briefing. John and the Land Title team are great supporters of the partnership, and they're actively engaged in the partnership's city building activities, with John serving on the partnership's Downtown Denver Inc. Board of Directors and Land Title being a silver level corporate sponsor. In response to the pandemic, in April of last year, Land Title rolled out a menu of healthy closing options that ensured a safe and effective closing experience for a variety of comfort levels. And with this adjustment, Land Title didn't experience any disruptions to the thousands of real estate transactions that they provided for their clients. In addition, while employee wellness, satisfaction, and work-life balance have always been priorities for Land Title, in November of 2020, they partnered with Mental Health Colorado to donate a percentage of the fee from every closing to support their work, as well as working with their wellness partners to schedule training sessions on resilience. So thank you very much, John and Land Title. And now I will turn this back to you, Britt, for what I think is going to be a very interesting program today.
Great, Sarah, thank you so much for those remarks. And I echo your thanks to our sponsors. And want to thank you all once again for being here today. I'm Britt Deal, Senior Manager of Public Policy and Special Projects here at the Downtown Denver Partnership. And like Sarah said, we have a really fabulous program for all of you today. And on behalf of the partnership, thank you for being engaged in our public policy landscape and other important topics that we address here at the partnership and in downtown Denver. A key piece of our mission is to ensure that all of our members are well informed and equipped with the very best of resources, especially during these times. So we thank you for taking advantage of this resource in our member briefing. So before we jump into our program, there are a few things that we want to know, and I'm going to take you through some exciting things that we have happening downtown. And as we emerge from the pandemic, this summer for us is really about celebrating our downtown, celebrating our community, and reminding ourselves and our community of what we all love so much about downtown Denver. So we have a few really fun ways that you can join us in celebrating downtown. The first is Up or Down Tunes, and that is a live music series that we are going to have all summer long. In total, it will mean 85 free concerts, all local musicians. That is being hosted at the Outer Space, our pop-up park at 16th and Welton, every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Outer Space. And then on the weekends from 4 to 7 p.m. at Glenarm Plaza, just about a block away. So we invite you to come out, enjoy the music. If you are in your office, it's a great place to enjoy your lunch outside with some music, or if you're looking for a fun outdoor place to have happy hour, we've got you covered there. So we encourage you all to join us for Up or Down Tunes all summer long. And on that note, we are also proud to present Meet in the Street, which is a well-loved Denver tradition that we are bringing back this year, really in celebration of our community. So We have 3 more weekends of Meet in the Street, the next being the weekend of July 4th. And this is a time where we have the entire weekend blocked off. No buses will be on the mall. They'll be rerouted. And so it really opens the 16th Street Mall up to pedestrians. You have a mile, literally a mile long festival that brings music, art, lots of fun and games, and plenty of surprises and delights. So we invite you to come to Meet in the Street, and also just want to remind everyone that all of our businesses, our restaurants, our retailers, and our hospitality businesses still need your support more than ever. So in addition to being down here during the week, we invite you to bring your family and bring your friends to downtown for all of the really exciting things that we have coming up. And finally, I want to remind everyone that the partnership is proud to launch the Denver's Ready campaign, which is a coalition of companies that have committed to bringing their employees back to downtown Denver in some capacity, whether it's on a kind of hybrid model or full-time. And this is yet another way to kind of celebrate our community, remind ourselves of what we all love so much about working in downtown Denver. Last week, we were joined by 2,000 of our closest friends, all employees that have returned to downtown Denver at a Rockies game to kind of kick off those celebrations. And we'll look forward to lots more opportunities to come together and celebrate being back downtown. So encourage you all to visit denversready.org to learn more about the coalition, access resources for getting your employees back into the office, best practices, things like that. And to join the coalition, of course. We've, like I said, lots more opportunities to jump into all of the fun downtown. So hope to see you all soon. And with that, we are going to move on to today's program. And I am really excited for the speakers that we have put forth today. The Downtown Denver Partnership knows that key to a vibrant, inclusive, and economically powerful city is a policy landscape that encourages investment and allows businesses to grow and thrive. So as we look toward the second half of 2021, we are going to give you a look at what the partnership has coming up, what you can look forward to in the November election and beyond. And we'll also just give you a little look at how the partnership engages in our public policy landscape in Denver and in the state. Quick housekeeping item, we will have time for Q&A with all of our speakers at the very end of the program. So as you hear from our speakers, feel free to use the Q&A function or the chat at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to as many questions as possible. And with that, I am very pleased to introduce today's speakers. We are joined by Denver's Clerk and Recorder, Paul Lopez, and also Partner and Chief Strategy Officer at CRL Associates, Kim Cusera, and our incoming chair of our brand new Public Policy Committee, which I'll touch on in a bit. And then I will round us off by giving an update on the partnership's advocacy efforts and how you can get engaged. So with that, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Clerk and Recorder Paul Lopez.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Lopez. I'm your elected clerk and recorder here for the Mile High City, hashtag Mile High Clerk. It's good to see you guys. I can't wait till we actually get to do this in person as well too. And I love being able to see your presence and just the things that are coming back in terms of its vibrancy downtown. So good job. Britt, you're a rock star, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Denver Clerk and Recorder's Office. So four major functions, right? So city clerk, so a lot of our ordinances, contracts, stuff like that. We are the stewards of those documents, including our charter. And then the other thing is looking at county records, marriage licenses, deeds of trust. We do other things in terms of making sure that folks have access to those documents as intended and as filed. I serve as the public trustee, which is a little bit odd because the rest of the 63 counties around the state, the clerk is not the public trustee, the treasurer is, but we actually got it right because it's about recordings. We basically are the referee and the umpire when it comes to foreclosure process and ensuring a fair process. And last but not least, and we are the gold standard in terms of how we run elections in this country. As the chief elections official for the county, we make sure that the elections here are ran in a way that's transparent, that's secure, and knowing, and for our voters and for the residents of Denver that their ballot is counted every single time. So let's get right to it. Charter review process. One of the problems that we encountered, and this was when I was still on the ballot actually, was that our municipal elections are facing a little bit of a problem. Those of you who know, Denver is the gold standard for the rest of the country in terms of how we run elections. It's an all mail-in ballot. And you have 3 ways to drop it off, either a vote center or, one of our drop boxes. We have 36 of them around the, well, now we're going to almost have 42 by the end of this cycle. And then vote centers, people can drop it off or just mail it, right? So it's a very, very easy model for the voter, and we make sure that it's easy for the voter, plain and simple. However, with our municipal elections, there's a little bit of a problem because as our charter, as elections have modernized, our charter has stayed antiquated. And now we are in a little bit of a conundrum because we are now potentially in violation one day of state law in terms of a deadline, a 45-day deadline that we need to hit to make sure that our UACAVA or our overseas voters have the same access and system that any of us here stateside would, right? Those are folks who are Americans living abroad or serving the country, and we don't want to disenfranchise, especially folks who are defending our democracy abroad. So what I did is I created a charter review committee, 7 members, that evaluated the wisdom of the runoff election, debated ulterior voting methods, not motives, and heard concerns about the current election calendar. Now we have to take some kind of action, and some of the things that we've encountered and ways to do it is ranked choice voting. Means that you would just rank your choice on the ballot instead of having a runoff. That would solve it. Approval voting, which would just be whoever has the most approved, who is the most approved in terms of the votes. You literally on the ballot, you would literally see, instead of vote for one, vote for as many as you'd like per race, and whoever is the most approved basically wins in that race. And then also the other opportunity would just be sliding the municipal election instead of May to give us another additional 30 days. You have the municipal in April. So we debated a lot about this. We found out that the sacred cows in Denver, one, when it comes to elections, Denverites love springtime municipal elections. The second is we don't necessarily like or favor, and it's not popular for us to have elected leaders that do not represent or were not elected with the majority of votes. That is 50% plus 1, as opposed to a plurality. The plurality voting model would just say who, depending on however many candidates are in the race, whoever gets the most wins, first past the post. And there are instances where you could mathematically have a possibility where in approval voting or in just having a plurality model where the winner, it could win with 20% of the votes, right? Depending on how many people are in the race. So we did a huge outreach and engagement effort. That's one of the things that we did, when I was elected to this office, is to create a very aggressive and real focused outreach and engagement plan. 600 individuals, 959 responses from our survey, 65,000 impressions, 1,200 engagements, and 338 public comments. So we really had a lot of input with this. So this is one thing that we're working on. I do expect to have these recommendations ready for the city council to consider and go through the process and eventually be on the November 2nd ballot this year. I will be forwarding those on to council at the end of this month. So next slide, please. Elections. We just came off of a very critical, but also a high profile election cycle. So looking back into 2020, we had 3 elections. We had a presidential primary, the first time in over 2 decades that we've had a presidential primary that's held by an election or not caucuses. We had a statewide primary for our state elected officials. And then we also had the presidential general election in last November. So this was the first presidential primary in 2 decades, like I said. And then also, if that wasn't a challenge enough, we had to do this in a pandemic. But our model is definitely pandemic proof. Our voting model was prepared for this. It is a very modern way of doing things and selecting your leadership. It is transparent, it's secure. 99% of ballots were returned via mail or drop box in our statewide primary held last year in June. Only 1% of voters voted in person. That's remarkable. That's the highest we've ever had in terms of that. The 2020 general election in November, we saw the second highest turnout, only to 1992 when you had Clinton and Bush and Perot in the election in the 90s. Second highest, 86%, with 94% of all ballots returned by mail and drop box. The average wait time in Denver, get this, 59 seconds. 59 seconds if you were voting in person. We had 38 ballot drop boxes throughout Denver. We've increased that number to 38. We're going to be increasing that number even more. We had over 1,000 election judges that were hired. These are your neighbors and friends and family members and fellow Denverites and folks from all around the metro counties. Vote centers, we operated at the Denver County Jail and Downtown Detention Center for the first time in the detention center. We partnered with Denver Public Schools for the first time in a while to host 7 school-based vote centers. These are mostly high schools and middle schools throughout the area. Next slide. Yeah, so it was a very, very historic, but in the most difficult of circumstances, our election judges, our staff, they were flawless. They batted 1,000, and battling the misinformation that was out there nationally, voters also defended this model and made sure that they participated. So it's because of you all that we can have this model, but also so many different people and stars and that have aligned, and just different efforts both internally and externally to make this model such an easy model for folks to be able to vote, is why it's the gold standard. We have an election coming up, November 2nd. It's a coordinated election. What you will see is questions on the ballot in terms of state or municipal questions that are being placed on the ballot. School board as well too. You'll see some school board candidates. Here's some of the changes that we had for the 2021 election cycle for November. We are adding a drop box at Regis University. We've added another drop box at Hamden Library. We are moving the District 1 police station box to the Aslan Rec Center. And we also have an additional voting center that's coming online. So this is another mobile unit that we can pretty much drive anywhere in the city to fill in gaps, right, and needs and address needs. When we also are in the works of negotiating and implementing another drop box over at the University of Denver as well too. Options for voting by mail, use of a 24-hour drop box. We do curbside pickup because, heck, if you can do curbside margaritas, then you can do curbside ballot service as well too. So we wanted to make sure some of those things that exist during the pandemic that were really, really helpful and innovative, we want to keep. Like I said, 2 mobile voting centers are coming in person. And also we're going to still, I think, last year and during the pandemic, we wanted to make sure that, COVID-19 precautions were being used. Again, not very many people vote in person overall, but if you do want to come vote in person, we will be maintaining those precautions throughout the election cycle, just to keep staff and voters safe if you do want to vote in person. So next slide, please. Public trustee. I mentioned that I serve as the public trustee as well too. Like I said, we are the umpire in the game, and we have to make sure that the rules are fair and applied equitably. And we want to make sure that it is a transparent and fair process. The public trustee in Colorado is a little different from from what you would call a public trustee in another state, being that those are private entities that people hire to basically arbitrate, right? We in Colorado, that is done by a public entity, and this goes back to our history as a state in terms of land swindles and things like that. The public decided that a public trustee would be better fit to make sure that the process is transparent and fair. Foreclosures. Those of you who remember the Great Recession in 2009 know that we got hit hard with foreclosures. There's a lot of lessons that were learned, and a lot that we thought maybe during the pandemic. I know these are different triggers and different episodes that have led to the foreclosure crisis in the past. We wanted to stay ahead of the game. We had no idea about the predictability of this pandemic and its effect on the market or foreclosures. There's been a prohibition on foreclosures for quite a while. So we are preparing, when that is lifted, for us to be able to triage whatever comes down the pike. We can't forecast too well in terms of what's coming down the pike in terms of foreclosures, but what we did is said, let's just get ahead of the game. Let's use our outreach and engagement team to do a series of town halls to educate people about what to expect during a foreclosure. Anybody that's ever gone through a foreclosure knows that notice is really scary. It's intimidating. The process is complicated, and that in and of itself can really affect somebody who's going through it in a negative way, to the point where they just kind of give up. There's a lot of different steps along the way, and we want to make sure folks are educated about it. So we partnered with OFEP, which is the Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection, the Denver Housing Authority, Brothers E Development, and NewSed. Just down the way, we hosted 6 virtual town halls with 3 more to come. One was in Vietnamese, the other one in Spanish. We have one tonight, actually. If you follow us on Facebook at Mile High Clerk, we'll post it. So basically the resources for homeowners that are facing foreclosure, who are already in the process of foreclosure. Next slide, please. Campaign finance, another huge thing that we're working on. Those of you who have dealt with campaign finance in the city know that it is a function that is absolutely critical to the transparency and trust of voters in their elected officials, and making sure that there's sunlight and that there is transparency and accountability with campaign finance. But we just did not have the system that would allow for that maximum transparency and sunlight. So what we wanted to do is overhaul and modernize our system. We didn't have a universal system that was in real time, that really crunched the numbers for folks. I mean, literally it was a pain in the butt for both candidates and the public in terms of figuring out campaign finance, the campaign finance realm of what we do. So our whole values on this is accountability and oversight, accessibility, transparency. It's a new system. It's a custom build. It's something that we're doing to put in place so that no matter what district you live in or where your zip code is, you're able to hop online and look into campaign finance, gift disclosures, financial disclosures, and also in the future, contractual similarities as well too, so that there is that transparency for folks. Training. We're going to be doing training in support for people who are running for office for the first time, or folks who are transitioning to this new system, for campaign staff, and basically anybody who's interested. This is a state-of-the-art system, and it's actually going to be a lot more powerful and a lot more user-friendly than what you even see with the state. So next one, please. Tracking candidates and initiatives. So right now, we have a lot of different initiatives that are out there, and a lot of folks who are filing petitions for initiated ordinances and such. This is what we do. We kind of go through it. We look at the titles. We look at the language of the bills. We work with folks to on if their title is disapproved or rejected. They have opportunities to cure, things like that. Again, we don't take positions in any of this. We are nonpartisan. The elections office, Denver Votes, our office is a public office, and we want to make sure that just in the interest of transparency and fairness, we don't opine on any of these things or have an opinion on these initiatives, but we do, like I said, play the referee. So the current active initiatives that have came through are the Pandemic Research Fund, Parks and Open Space Preservation, Waste No More, Polluters Must Pay, Safe and Sound Denver, and No Eviction Without Representation. And there's also another initiative that was just approved, which is a very similar, it addresses the same issue in terms of parks and open space preservation, that will be posted on our website as well too. Like I said, denvergov.org for all that information if you have any questions about it. And from what I hear and what I see on the agenda, you will be briefed by Kim on some of those things. I know that, like I said, we don't take any positions, but we just wanted to put it out there. Next one, please. Civic Academy. This is something new. This is something that our outreach and engagement team has envisioned, and something I envisioned coming into this office. Is I am constantly amazed of just the level of education of basic civics that needs to be out in our community. It doesn't get taught in high schools. It doesn't get taught the way it should be and the way it used to be when I was a younger person. And, you know, if we can't expect it there, then we should start doing it ourselves, right? And so it is literally a civic academy. And what we're trying to do is, there are a lot of common misconceptions and common mistakes that people have when they're looking into participating, either whether it's voting for the first time, voting registration training, doing your own voter registration drives or get out the vote efforts. We are looking at doing in-depth training for our partners, focused on ADA, language access, accurately documenting, answering basic questions, securely returning documents. People that, run for office, sometimes they separate the pages of their petitions, which is a huge no-no. It's a disqualifier. There's just a lot of misconceptions out there. We want to make sure that people have resources. Again, civic participation is beyond voting. It's also what you do the rest of the year that matters as well too. Kids voting. So we have a K through 12 mock election program that we're working on. We want to start young. It's a culture of participation. Remember the 84% turnout? Well, there's still 16% out there that did not vote in one of the most high profile elections in our history. Part of that question is asking why, right? What are those issues? Is it geographic? Is it language? Is it access? Or is it just a lack of faith in the system? And so what we want to do is really start early in terms of that civic participation, improving civic education, again, basic civics 101, lifelong habits, creating that lifelong habit of participation, executing on your civic duty as an American, right? Collaboration with educators on curriculum, so that people understand that it's a safe and secure system, and it's something in the democracy that we cherish so much here is actually pretty simple to understand. But like I said, without the proper education, that's some of the misinformation and disinformation that you see out there. So we're working on a pilot program in 2021 with 5 different schools. We're going to keep expanding the program and literally hold elections on election day and allow students to use paper ballots or electronic ballots as well too. And it's going to be pretty amazing. Leadership Academy, 6-week program. RNOs, anybody who wants to be a part of it, it's a 12. Then we have a 12-week clerk and recorder program, learning about the function of public trustee, city clerk, elections, recording. There's a huge part of civic participation is understanding how to participate, right? So that's the Civic Academy. Next slide, please. Clerk in the community, which literally it is what it is. We want to be in the community. We had a huge undercount for this race that I was actually a candidate in. 20,000 vote undercount, which means not a lot of people understand this critical function of government, especially on the county side. We're doing 101 videos, filming filing for office, filing for petitions, how to do things properly, running for school board, what to expect, campaign finance 101. We need access to information. People in the community need access to information. And so this information is, it's transparent and it maintains that transparency for the work that we do and what the expectations are. We're working with higher education, with internships, work study. We got projects with our various institutions in Denver in terms of why are people not voting and that lack of participation, and research how we can continue to improve our elections and improving what we're calling kids voting. Right. This last election saw the highest participation among young people than we've seen in decades. Next slide, please. Never too early to register to vote. Those of you who are not registered, I doubt that you're not, but if you double check your information anyway, it never hurts to update that information. If you haven't signed up for Ballot Trace, this is where you get literally you get notifications on where your ballot is in the process. It's now Ballot Trace 2.0, which allows you, it serves more as a platform for your voting record and basically for your registration to update your information, things like that, get information from us. You can scan this QR code or just go to denvervotes.org. Next one. You can contact us. That's our contact information, our Twitter handle. We are Mile High Clerk and at Denver Elections. Facebook at Denver Clerk. That's most of our information. If you want to do a screenshot or take a picture of that, you're welcome to. With that, I think the next slide is just any questions. I know I ran through a lot of information, but that's a lot that we're doing, and we're doing it within 2 years.
Thank you so much for that, Clerk Lopez. We are so lucky to have you and your team here in Denver leading us through all of these processes. I, for one, had no idea that you all had that Civic Academy, and I think that is really, really fabulous. And really thank you for your leadership and all of your amazing work around our elections. I know that our system is the envy of those around the country. So
it's the result. I appreciate that, but it's the result of decades of hard work of employees that have been here for a long time and staff that have been here for a long time to really test it out and to perfect it. And like I said, we're always learning. And then also, I mean, you saw 1,180 election judges. It takes that kind of effort. And, I'd be remiss to not thank them publicly again for that. And it can be a thankless job, but it is so worth it.
Well, I will echo those thanks on behalf of the partnership and thank you once again for your leadership.
Thank you.
So I am now going to turn it over to one of our board members here at the partnership, Chief Strategy Officer and partner at CRL Associates and our incoming chair of the Downtown Denver Partnership Policy Committee, to talk a bit about some of these ballot issues that Clerk Lopez mentioned. I'll turn it over to Kim. I will give a brief update on behalf of the partnership, and then we can jump into any questions. Kim, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking time to tune in today to listen to all of this, what I find fascinating information. Thank you, Clerk Lopez, for all of that great information. As Britt mentioned, I'm going to follow up, and I think Clerk Lopez mentioned, I'm going to follow up on the ballot items that are on the list that Clerk Lopez showed. But first, just in case anyone does not spend all of their time following this, I thought I would talk about how something gets on the ballot in Denver. So there's 3 different ways to get on the ballot in Denver. 2 of them have to do with an initiated ordinance. So there's 2 different ways an initiated ordinance can move to the ballot. One is the legislative body. So in this case, Denver City Council can refer that to the ballot, and then it would be on the ballot without a collection of signatures. The second way that something can get on the ballot via initiated ordinance is actually for citizens to initiate the ordinance. And in order for that to happen, they will bring forward a ballot title, Then the clerk, who you just heard speaking, would look at that title, make sure it meets the proper legal requirements, and then that ballot title has been approved. After that, the citizens then would use the pre-approved petition form to collect signatures. And in this case, the number of signatures needed is 2% of the total number of active registered electors as of January of each odd numbered year. So right now that account amounts to about 9,000 signatures that need to be collected. And so if the citizens are able to collect those signatures, they turn them in. Clerk Lopez's office will see if those are all accurate signatures, and that then would be on the ballot for voters to vote on. The other way that an item can get on the ballot is a referendum by citizens. So this is a very little known fact that citizens do have the ability to look at various pieces of legislation that the legislative body, again, that's Denver City Council in Denver, not anything, but a certain group of things that Denver City Council passes can be referred to the ballot by the citizens. And so in order to do this, they must submit signatures, again, the 2% of the total number of active registered voters as of January of each odd number year, about 9,000 signatures. They would have to submit signatures to the clerk's office no later than 90 days after the passage of the ordinance. So that is something not many people are aware of. We actually do have an item that's on the ballot that the signatures have been approved that is seeking to repeal an ordinance passed by Denver City Council. I am not going to talk about that one unless people have questions about it. What I am going to speak to are 4 of that list of ballot initiatives that Clerk Lopez showed. The first is Waste No More. And all of these 4 that I'm speaking to, the ballot title has been approved and they are in the signature collection phase right now. And I'll speak about when those signatures are due to see if they can get them in on time. So the first item is Waste No More. And this is a citizen initiated ordinance. And what it would do is it would create a mandate to offer recycling and composting for various different groups in the city, including multifamily and commercial property owners, food waste producers, and mobile food vendors, special events, and also with regard to construction and demolition, it would require the recycling of readily recyclable items. The program would be monitored by the Department of Transportation, who, if you don't know, in Denver, they already are the ones that run the residential recycling and trash program. So for this item to get on the ballot, they will need to submit signatures by August 16th. So it's coming right up. And we will see if they are able to get their signatures. The second item, which was introduced by the same group of citizens, is an item called Polluters Must Pay. So what this would do is it would levy an excise and use tax on electric and natural gas usage in the city and county of Denver for those who use a public utility, which is most of us. And there would be a threshold that if you exceed the threshold, any usage of electricity or natural gas over that threshold would be taxed at these specific rates. It would also create a climate justice board and the climate justice fund. And when the money comes in from the tax, half of the money would go to the climate justice fund and the other half would go to the city's already created climate department that you guys might be familiar with. Any money that comes in through this tax would need to be used to fund programs to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. Those signatures are also due on August 16th. The third item on the ballot that I'm going to discuss is the proposed ballot initiative relative to Denver camping. This is another citizen initiated ordinance, and it would require the city and county of Denver to enforce the unauthorized camping in the city. And if it does not enforce the unauthorized camping, it would create a process for private enforcement. That process is that a citizen or anyone can turn in a complaint, and if the city has not taken action on the unauthorized camping in 72 hours, that complainant can then bring a civil action against the city. This would also, the other item for Denver camping would be that it would create the ability for the city to locate 4 approved camping sites and also the ability of the city to fund those. And those camping sites, would explicitly be for people experiencing homelessness. Those signatures are due November 2nd of 2021. And the last item I'm going to cover is the ballot initiative Denver tax. This is another citizen initiative. And the proposal here is to reduce the total sales and use tax from 4.8% to 4.5%. And it would further require that if an item goes to the ballot and the voters approve a tax increase, that the taxes, other taxes that have already been levied, they would have to decrease other taxes to get back under the 4.8 or the 4.5%. So if we're at 4.5% and someone puts a tax on the ballot for another 0.1% and it passes, that 0.1% goes on, and then the city has to find a way to take another 0.1% somewhere else off. This was submitted not too long ago, and the signatures are due on November 8th of 2021. And I was going to discuss the other citizen ballot initiative that is no eviction without representation. But I think it's possible that one could be withdrawn because City Council actually passed an ordinance last night that allows for the creation of an eviction legal defense fund. So for folks who are being evicted, they have access to a legal defense fund to pay for an attorney to represent them. So we'll see if that one's withdrawn. If it's not, maybe next time I come and speak to you all, I can talk about that one. And I'm going to stop there because those are the four that I thought were most specific to the Center City, but happy to take questions on the other ones that are on the ballot as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Kim. That was a really fabulous overview. I just really appreciate you lending your expertise to us here today. So in the interest of time, I am going to breeze through a few things that you can expect from the Downtown Denver Partnership for the remainder of this year. As I mentioned, the partnership advocates for a policy landscape that supports a vibrant city, supports business growth, and makes it a great place for people to live, work, and do business. So under that lens, we advocate for in a number of different areas. And I want to first note that your voice as members of the Downtown Denver Partnership is incredibly important to us as we formulate our policy and advocacy efforts. So I'm going to put in the chat here a link to our semi-annual public policy survey. We issue this survey 2 times a year, once in the winter and once over the summer. I'm really asking you, our members, to share your voices about what issues concern you most about your city and as it relates to your business. So I invite all of you to click that link, take the policy survey, let us know what you think. There's a place to add your comments, add additional concerns or areas of interest to you, and also let us know how you'd like to engage with us. So that is an incredibly important tool that we use as we form our policy priorities looking ahead at the next 6 months. So with that, you have heard both from Clerk Lopez and Kim on some things related to the upcoming November 2021 coordinated election, which will be here before we know it. So I want to talk a little bit about what the partnership does around elections and what you can look forward to from us. So under the lens of our policy priorities, we take a look at each ballot issue that appears on the ballot, both at the local level and the state level. We determine whether the ballot issues at hand align with our priorities, might have the potential to deter from some of those priorities, and our boards vote accordingly to oppose or support certain measures kind of under that lens. So in the coming months, you'll see us likely take positions on a few different measures. We have not taken any yet, but are looking closely at the things that are coming on the ballot. And in addition to providing information on those ballot issues that we take specific positions on, we also put out a full ballot guide that goes through every single ballot measure that you see on your ballot there. So we provide very straightforward, balanced information that kind of adds as a supplement to your blue book that you get. We try to break it down, translate some of that language that can be a little bit sticky sometimes to understand if you're not a lawyer or ingrained in the political field. So You can look out for that at the beginning of October, which again will be here before you know it. And we are always here to provide information on election related issues and of course public policy as well. Looking at the broader public policy landscape, we have a few areas that we're really going to be focused in on. So I'd encourage you to reach out to me. I'll pop my email into the chat in just a moment if you have interest in engaging. So one thing that you'll see from the partnership a great deal in the coming months is talking about housing. This is a critically important issue to our city for both the present and the future of our city. We need a housing stock that supports all levels of our workforce, and we are deeply committed to increasing that housing stock and ensuring that our workforce at all levels has access to attainable and affordable housing. So the partnership is engaged with the city's expanding housing affordability efforts and that task force, and we will also be taking a look at the rulemaking process as it relates to House Bill 1117, which recently was signed into law by the governor. That is a state level piece of legislation that will allow municipalities, including the city and county of Denver, to mandate certain levels of affordable housing into new housing development. So we're going to be deeply engaged in that rulemaking process there, and we'll be looking for our members to engage in that as well. Your voices are incredibly important. We continue to be deeply engaged in addressing homelessness in our city. We work very closely with our partners at the City and County of Denver in the Department of Housing Stability, otherwise known as HOST, to look at the homelessness landscape in a really comprehensive way, really with the ultimate goal of getting roofs over people's heads and getting people into permanent supportive housing solutions. So we'll continue to work through that very challenging and complex issue, and always invite our members to join in on those conversations. And finally, I will say we're also we always watch a variety of issues that are related to transportation, parks and public spaces, really anything that contributes to a vibrant center city. Another area that is critical to the partnership at this moment is the renewal of the Downtown Denver Business Improvement District. Every 10 years, that Business Improvement District, which the partnership oversees, goes up for renewal in front of Denver City Council. So that will go to committee on June 16th and will then carry on to Denver City Council at the very beginning of July. And that is a critically important process to the partnership and the overall economic health of downtown Denver as we look to use the Business Improvement District in creating a safe, welcoming, clean place where all can enjoy and thrive. So we will be keeping our members posted on that. And if anyone has any questions, I'd encourage you to pop that into the chat. But I really just want to thank everyone for being here today and engaging in our public policy landscape. I think above all, the partnership is deeply committed to working to ensure a landscape that supports everyone who lives here and especially our businesses. We know that our city thrives when our business community thrives, and we are working every day to make sure that that policy landscape makes it a place where our businesses can grow, where other businesses from outside of Denver are willing to move and grow here. So very committed to that. And once again, I'm going to pop my email in the chat if you're interested in discussing any specific issues. If you have questions about anything that is coming up, we are always happy to chat, provide more information, and think about ways that we can collaborate. So I want to thank everyone once again for being here today and engaging in this very important conversation. And once again, thank you so much to Clerk Paul Lopez and Kim Cusera for being here and providing this very timely and important information to all of us. So with that, we will wrap up, wishing everyone a great rest of your week and stay cool out there. Take care.